Welcome back to another episode of No Shelf Control, Portal's podcast that explores the fast-shifting world of retail media, performance marketing, and digital commerce. Today, we're diving into something special, and that is the fundamental, or potential fundamental shift in change in digital advertising with the recent announcement from OpenAI that ChatGPT is introducing paid ads. So this isn't just another placement option, another ad platform, or is it? This could be the first real evolution beyond search as we know it. So, Sam, before we dive into AI ads and experimental media questions, give the listeners a quick overview as to you and my esteemed guest today, which is Sam Cox from Apex. So if you give us a bit of a background on you and your role, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie, and thanks for having me. I'm Sam, director of Apex Digital, which is a small technical marketing agency. So what do I mean by technical marketing? So you might have your traditional agency that will focus on, creative optimization and, running campaigns, which is absolutely fair enough. But over my whole career, I've noticed that actually a big lacking element of these strategies is data and how you collect data, approach the strategy around it, and use that proactively to optimize campaigns. Time and again, it's like marketers are held to ransom by IT tech teams because they don't know technical elements, how to code things or how to write SQL or how to design infrastructures that suits them, and marketing's always bottom of the pile. So we help clients to essentially do that and empower them by helping them understand data, but using it to enhance campaigns. So
nice.
Absolutely.
And we've been working together for a little while now, so I know that you are perfectly placed to have this discussion with me today.
Yeah.
And so let's jump straight into it then. So we've got obviously performance marketing, we've got awareness marketing, we've had search for a long time, and now we've got artificial intelligence that's officially joined the mix of channels that we have at our fingers.
Yeah.
And so let's get into it. If Google defined the last 20 years of digital advertising, what's defining the next 20?
I think it will. It's hugely dependent on which direction it goes, right? Back when Google started doing advertising, it was probably a very good value for money for a lot of people because you could pay to appear for that keyword, right? It was such a perfect ad placement that you could think of. And now it's kind of compared to AI, where you've got all of that contextual information within an interaction with AI. It has much more data and power to recommend much more personalized products.
Mm-hmm.
So the future is ultimately not just targeting on a broad brush that we might kind of categorize it now, where it's like targeting search terms or various audiences. It will be giving AI creative license, if you like, to go after whoever it sees fit based on the parameters that you've set for it. And it will be a lot less hands-off and almost have a lack of control from the marketers or the person who's running the campaign's point of view.
Yeah.
Like you will be in charge of setting those parameters and ultimately what you're trying to advertise. But it's the same with things like Performance Max now, where you have no control over where those ads are served or, who sees them and what you spend, really, apart from your budget limit.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the way that it goes, really, or the way that it's going over the next few years, which ultimately just leads to one thing, which is what data do you give AI, and how are you discoverable for AI in order to maximize the effectiveness of what it perceives your brand and how it matches up to those contextual signals from AI encounters that people have.
Yeah, for sure. I know from my own personal usage of AI, I don't use it like I used Google. I ask it different questions. I ask it much more in-depth questions. We have a conversation.
Yeah.
And that, I think, it presents both an opportunity for brands, but also a complexity from an ad platform point of view. So I know it's early days in the information that's been leaked around how this is all going to work in terms of how ads are going to appear, how they'll be optimized or not optimized. But that brings the excitement from our side of the fence of starting to explore this with clients.
Mm-hmm. Well, interestingly, in the research for this episode, I asked ChatGPT what its opinion was
What did it say?
Of where it's gonna where the ads on ChatGPT are gonna go. And it was like, definitely not going to influence conversations. It's going to be very light touch. It's starting off with tests in the US. And I think it's important to say that, it's very early days for this technology.
Yeah.
In the US, it's only tested with a small subset of users to free users as well.
Yeah.
So people who are on business or pro plans don't see these, which is a good thing to point out. But, the way that Google's gone over the past 20 years with trying to make as much money as possible. It's maybe that will all change in the future. But actually, if you're interacting with an AI and it is heavily influenced by ads, that might just ruin the validity of its answers, because users think, well, someone's paying you to recommend this to me.
Absolutely.
So is it going to go down that route? Or is it going to go down the route of, more like display, where it's contextual to that conversation that you're having, but it'll be like, oh, by the way, here's what we just talked about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting to see what's going to come out and what formats will emerge. I think it would be a shame if it's just display, if I'm honest. I think they have so much data and so much power that integrated, almost shopping-like ads could be, or even maybe a new format will emerge that we haven't even thought of. Maybe AI's designed its own format that we can't even possibly fathom.
Well, yeah, and it could be like a shopping mode, for example.
Yes.
Like, where you're willingly consenting to it recommending products for you, let's say, and then that could be influenced by ads, and it's separate to a main, deep research tool. There's loads of different variations of AI right now where you do it for deep research or coding or whatever. It could just be another arm to that, and then that might be completely fine for the end user.
Absolutely. Well, we talked a lot about how behavior is shifting, and as I said, my behavior changes massively from how I use ChatGPT's interface versus how I would use a Google search function.
Yeah.
And so with that behavioral shift, what do we think they've actually introduced here? Like, where do we think this is going? Is it another ad unit on a media plan, or is this the start of something completely new, in your opinion?
I think it's the start of something new, because it is a channel which will hit all stages of the funnel, and that's incredibly powerful for marketers. Because right now, if you think of the mix, you've got your paid socials, top funnel awareness. We know this from working with clients that very much awareness driven. You don't necessarily expect conversions off that. Then you can have Google for things like lower funnel and specific intent keywords, and again that serves its purpose. But actually, if you can somehow influence AI in the future to tackle all points of that funnel, from awareness right down to consideration and purchase, actually you're hitting all three in one, and actually you will reduce the number of total clicks probably in a journey, because you'll compress all of that down into one conversation almost. You start off asking it a question that's fairly broad, and you'll narrow it down all within 10 minutes. Whereas before that might have been, and still is now, multiple touch points or impressions across multiple different platforms, and all that would be kind of separate and different, like data sources and stuff like that. So that actually, maybe it's an opportunity if all that data is in one place. Yeah, you'll be able to consolidate it and have almost a source of truth, albeit in a bit of a black hole.
Yeah, I think you raise a really good point that lots of other platforms claim to be full funnel. I would say perhaps what we can see as a possibility is a real platform that is full funnel, from awareness all the way through to conversion, depending on what is built. All of this is speculation on what may perhaps you and I think could be built.
Well, hopefully ChatGPT will be listening to this and they'll take some ideas.
Maybe they'll hire us.
We'll have some commission off that, thanks. But no, of course, it's speculative, and this is not even talking about like agentic commerce and all of that world, where there's a possibility of no clicks, no touch point. You all just exist within an AI environment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think that would pose a lot of challenges from data collection. But yeah, I don't want to preempt our conversation too much.
If we double back down on the differences between traditional search behavior and ChatGPT, as we've already discussed. If somebody no longer types in best protein powder, but instead they're having a full conversation with ChatGPT, what does that do to traditional search planning and what we'll now call generative search buying? Let's call it that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't predict how someone's going to search for your product anymore, right? So in a completely, let's go back to like 2010 or something when, what's a good example? I could use the example of, cars, right? If you're going to buy a new car, you'll search a brand you like already or just a more general term of like best new cars in 2010 or 2025 for that matter. And then obviously you'll get the listings of ads, the organics, all the SERP features, all that, and then you'll make your way through that journey. And I think that is the sort of search that would be more at risk from the AI searches or the AI ads, if you like.
Yeah.
Because it's completely different to, let's say, if you're going to get your car serviced.
Yeah.
And it's localized, it's possibly quite urgent and specific. I can't foresee a situation where you would type that into ChatGPT because it's more you kind of know what you want already. So then you would go towards Google search maybe, or just ring someone up.
Yeah.
It's so actually the power of this new platform is in those more high funnel, I would say, areas where it replaces those searches, but then it at the same time converts those much quicker into a low funnel. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, how do you plan for that? I guess you can't really.
Yeah.
Or it's very dependent on the what you're advertising and what product it is. So yeah, again, you'd need some different strategies.
Yeah.
Per each use case.
I think this potentially plays into, it will inevitably be a black box, but like PMax is, right? It's just give us your outcome that you want, give us your budget, and we'll go after that. And I read something that, actually I watched a clip of Mark Zuckerberg talking about that's where he wants to take Meta and the Facebook ads platform, which is, here's my outcome I want to achieve, here's my budget, and you let them do the rest. And obviously from an advertiser's point of view, if that works, that's great, but it raises questions from one and your side of things, which is, how did that work? What was the analytics behind it? What was the optimization strategy? And could we be more efficient with it? And you raised an interesting point there of the car servicing example, that if I was using ChatGPT, I might be trying to fix it myself. And ask questions about how to fix this thing in my car myself, and it might then pop up with an ad going under the hood, realizing that I have no idea what I'm doing, and find me a local service provider and said, maybe you should just talk to a mechanic.
Lots of car accidents in the future.
Just go and talk to a mechanic, Ollie.
No, for sure. And I think with things like PMax, I've experienced running PMax campaigns enough to know that it's frustrating almost as a marketer because, and again, it depends. So in my experience, when you run a PMax campaign on something that's not like e-commerce, it's like it's lead gens or form fills, that sort of thing. It gives you the conversions because that's its objective, but they're not very high quality. So you can't pre-qualify what it gives you. So you're stepping away from that control and audience targeting or exclusionary audiences. And you can do all that sort of stuff, but it's always so at arm's length with PMax because it's like, trust the AI. And do you know what? Maybe I need to embrace it a little bit more. But I find it, especially talking to clients, I almost think like, well, I don't know half the time how it's worked.
No.
So well, because you give it a set of parameters and it's acted within those parameters, which are quite wide. Whereas I always try and limit it, especially if you're advertising for like a service business who really have quite a specific niche. You need to target again like certain search queries on Google or certain audiences in Meta in order to achieve that. But as what we've maybe said, where all of this is going to be compressed into like one conversation, you lose control of that because you can never know what the circumstances will arise in which your perfect customer is going to arise.
Yeah.
And as a marketer, maybe it's a little bit concerning, but also an opportunity.
For sure. I mean, it raises the question of brand safety, right? As you're saying, which is if I'm giving my budget and it's a black box, how do I know my ads are being run in the right contextual environment? There's a lot of trust going into a platform that historically hasn't built or run an ads platform before. So, and I'm sure that might be Gemini's approach to maybe running some similar ads that Claude did over the Super Bowl to try and combat any sort of budget that might be leaving their realm.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk a little bit more about what this means for advertisers, because there's no doubt that this is a monumental shift and opportunity. But let's make this practical. If you are a performance director at a major brand today, should you be excited? Should you be worried? Should you be skeptical? What's your opinion on that?
I think it's nuanced. I'll sit on the fence, but it's both an opportunity and a problem. I would say, because as I've mentioned, like I think it's an exciting new channel, so you can explore and play around with it, and it may highlight a revolutionary new ad world where you can have all aspects of the funnel covered with minimal ad budget and get the right customer at the right time, and all of that. At the same time, I am worried, and the primary reason why I'm worried is availability of data. As you've mentioned a couple of times, the black hole or the walled garden or whatever you might want to call it, where actually your opportunity to collect first-party customer data is really limited. You get this if you're running brand awareness, and as a portal will know that you historically don't really have the opportunity to collect data on awareness type campaigns because the click is quite infrequent, and that's not the point of the campaign. With AI, it kind of makes that problem relevant for the lower funnel as well, because you aren't able to collect that data on your own domain, like your own website, and relying on whatever the ad campaign gives you. So let's say in this future world where we're paying ChatGPT money to serve ads, and combine that with, let's say, Agentic e-commerce, there could be a situation where there is no click to your website, and then you get an API back of customers who've bought. Yes, and you'll get that data, but no doubt it'll be modeled, or some sort of processing will have happened to it, and I can't validate that. Whereas, as I always say to my clients, the where you want to be is to have your own data infrastructure where you know how it's collected, you do all the processing, and you can join external data sources to that to get the full picture, but you've got to have that source of truth.
Yeah.
And even without agentic e-commerce, and let's say if there's a click at the end of it, in an AI ad world, as we've said before, that funnel's going to get compressed. You might have just one click, one very good high intent click that will drive a sale for you, but you've lost all of that contextual information about what's happened previously. And some marketers might think, well, I don't care as long as I get the sale.
Yeah.
But I'd see that as a risk from a data perspective and data strategy, because you're getting a sale. Where's that person come from?
Yeah,
What
why?
worked? Yeah,
Why did
why?
that sale happen?
Yeah.
And how can we replicate that and scale it? Which is
Mm-hmm.
that's what our job is, right? And
Yeah.
this is why we have those same questions, which
Yeah.
is,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you have your own website and you have that data, seeing these sales pop up from nowhere that are potentially agentic happening outside of your ecosystem could be quite worrying as to internal reporting initially,
Yeah.
attributing where sales are coming from, and really knowing your customer becomes far harder, right? Where your customers are interacting with your brand off of your website. That's a monumental shift in the way in which we've historically used the internet.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I agree with your sentiment. It poses an opportunity as well as a threat. A threat of tread carefully into the future.
Yeah, for sure.
And so let's dive into a little bit of that then, because there are some brands who we both work with very closely that do not own the destination that their traffic is driving to. So if we assume that in its purest simple form, the ad platform of OpenAI is going to be click-based, so you can target customers based on their contextual inputs and the conversation they've had within that context window, and then they're clicking out to a destination to continue their onwards journey. Let's forget agentic AI for a second.
Yep.
This still poses a major challenge for CPG brands. So let's dive into that for a second. Do you see that as a continued threat? Does this change the game for them? How would you start to help CPG brands to strategize navigating this new channel?
Well, I would say it's they're losing that click, or the awareness clicks. Is we both know that CPGs do focus a lot on the top funnel, and as that gets compressed, there'll be less clicks to go around ultimately. And actually, if they're using a tool like Portal, where you measure the data from the landing page in the whole session and get purchase attribution, getting that click is powerful, but also there was benefit in the previous clicks that happened because you might generate the audiences off the pixel or conversion API, and that's valuable in itself because that's yours. You can generate that data yourself. So possibly with CPG brands, I think they're going to have to pivot to a more performance-led mindset if they want to utilize this new paradigm effectively, for sure. Because I see it all the time when I'm looking at a web analytics report and I see ChatGPT as a referrer, let's say, it's always going to drive high conversion rate, higher AOV. It's a brilliant channel to drive high intent users, but as I say, it masks those previous clicks.
Yes.
So this is a great opportunity for brands to utilize a tool like Portal to track that end click and generate those sales without having to necessarily invest in the upper funnel stuff, where, as you know, there'll be lots of impressions, some clicks and high bounce rates and very little engagement. To actually just pivot all that and stop almost wasting all that budget, pivot to a much higher intent where you can measure those sales, and you actually can then attribute more of your budget to actual sales that you've driven from your marketing campaigns. We say this all the time to clients, where they start off in this world where they've not had access to track the landing page and the session afterwards, so they focus on awareness. But actually, it's a great opportunity to focus on the lower funnel and the conversion elements of that funnel, and AI is only going to accelerate that, I think. And it'll be exciting when we start seeing this first data come through. Of whenever it breaks out of the US, the ChatGPT ads, to see if it really stacks up against Google as a conversion channel. And if it does, then fantastic. I think there's a real opportunity there, especially for CPG brands.
And on that, do you then? I mean, you've already mentioned Google, but if ChatGPT is converting, its usage is going exponentially through the roof every single month on month. Do you see this as a direct threat to TikTok Meta?
Yeah, I think so. There'll always be space or a slice of that pie for the pure awareness, creative media where it's all impressions based, and that's absolutely fine because brand building is, even before you could attribute digital spend, it was always a thing, right? And it always will continue to be a thing. And I think you've got to view social as almost like a billboard.
Yeah.
Right? You still invest in it. Don't expect to be able to measure much from it because of all these journeys get broken up through different platforms and devices and etc. And data fragmentation. You're never going to track that. Treat it as a billboard. Treat it as a brand building tool. But if you actually want to drive the conversion, it would make sense to especially as a CPG, just to pivot more towards the lower funnel or use the social channels carefully by targeting a high intent audience through them.
Mm-hmm.
That is more likely to purchase at that given time. I think
it's really interesting, and
mm-hmm.
there's no doubt that what's currently going on in CPG world is that the budget's going to have to come from somewhere to start trialing out this new platform, and it'll be interesting to see where that budget's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
And which brings us on to what do you think Google will do in this realm? And we already know that there is an element of AI results that pop up in our very well and familiar known Google search page.
Yeah.
What do you think Google will do in retaliation and in realistically the masters of what is search?
Yeah, I imagine they'll be accelerating whatever they had in development for sure, because it's like the starting gun of this race now.
Yeah.
I think, and ChatGPT have started it, and what will happen? I think Google will accelerate the AI mode as an answer. So
yeah,
I lose track. Is it Gemini now, or is it AI mode? It's all the same sort of AI package, right? They'll start monetizing that for sure, because Google Ads revenue in the traditional sense will go down.
Yes.
And Google Marketing Platform, it will just encompass AI mode as another deployment of that. So it will be like PMax takes into account search, YouTube, display, all that. I think the AI mode will be part of that, and you won't necessarily get a choice of where or what shows up to who.
There's also a different distinguishment. You raised it earlier, and I thought was really interesting, is that ChatGPT is only showing ads to free users,
mm-hmm.
and I think that segments the audience quite drastically, probably towards the negative effect. If you're paying for ChatGPT, perhaps you're more of an affluent audience, so you're excluding that audience from ads, or in business or a different type of user. Whereas Google has a different advantage of everybody is already interacting with their full ecosystem, and as you say, toggling on our AI mode becomes part potentially of what already exists within PMax, which is this autonomous dynamic ad system that's just targeting people as and when they pop up through the Google ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure, and I think it will have kind of mass appeal. I mean, I'm skeptical that the ChatGPT will just restrict it to the free users, to be honest.
You think we're going to start seeing ads pop up in our business accounts?
Yeah, for sure. Unless you're, on the enterprise plan or
maybe
or whatever.
Maybe, yeah.
But I think it's different because Google makes its money through advertising because it's free at point of use, and that was the case. That is the case because they want mass adoption of it, which has worked, right? Everyone uses Google because it's free and it's this great thing. But then everyone is a product in that ecosystem. So if you're not paying for it, then you are the product, and your data is up for grabs because of that. I think ChatGPT is different because there are some users that pay for it, right? So it's not a free product, and actually they have earned the privilege to not have their data shared through that. So it's interesting. Does it turn more into an advertising-based model or a subscription-based model? Because it's two different business models from these businesses, right?
We just don't know yet, do we?
Yeah, don't know. Yeah, so it could just be like, all right, ChatGPT's free for everyone, but there's going to be loads of ads, and you can pay to remove those ads, and that might be the dominant way of them doing it. It depends which models are available and how it achieves that.
Well, you raise an interesting point because obviously Sam Altman came out and said that he wasn't going to do ads, and then made a big U-turn on that, and now they're building or have released an ads platform. But I think there's another development that we can't ignore, which is they just bought OpenClaw, which is all around building agents, and that was a one-man band that built a whole solution and a software where every day people can go and build their own agents. Now, we can't ignore that we talked about, what would be the closest resemblance to a click-based ad system for OpenAI to release ChatGPT ads being, you see an ad, you click on it, you go to somebody's website. Let's talk about agentic commerce, because that is obviously a huge advantage of having an AI, which is, for those listening, you are served an advertisement, and potentially the prompt or call to action is to have an agent actually go and purchase that product on your behalf. Now, that completely changes the way in which we use the internet, and I want to talk a little bit about what that means for us as consumers. And so with that potential development, because of course we don't know what's going to happen right now, it's all behind closed doors, but the pipes are being laid for that sort of interaction. What are your thoughts about how that changes the game for advertisers? But let's also not forget, we've touched on it briefly, the other side of the fence, which is the retailer, the actual website owners, or the D2C brand that has their website. Can you foresee any major challenges and potential watch-outs that might be coming down the pipeline in terms of analytics and optimization?
No, absolutely. I think the reason why OpenAI pivoted on the ads, it's probably because they got the bill from their server room, right? And they have to melt ice caps to keep them cool, right? Can't be cheap.
No.
But in terms of the impact on D2C and Agentic, is it like did I read it was like a Shopify integration or something that's getting geared up for it?
Yeah, there's a few different solutions being built. So OpenAI have partnered with Shopify, and they've got some sort of called out. The Shopify integration is going to allow anyone that's got a back-end commerce built by Shopify to connect to this OpenAI, meaning that agents can just shop automatically. And they've got major retailers like Walmart that have signed up for this system. Right. And then you've got Google that are building their unified commerce API protocol, unified commerce protocol.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, and you can foresee a future where websites are less important,
which is mad to fathom.
Yeah.
If your website, for us that are digital companies, that is our storefront, in the digital world.
Mm-hmm.
And if they become obsolete, that is a crazy future that I didn't fathom, if I'm honest. So to have an agent just shopping for you is in my opinion a bit of a novelty.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think you would shop like that on a weekly basis?
No, I don't think so. 'Cause I like to. It's for the same reason that I like to go to the shop instead of getting it delivered. Because if you deliver it, they give you all the old stuff, right? I like to control what I'm doing and I don't know, have a bit of agency about the choices that I'm making as a consumer. And I don't know, maybe this is a fairy tale dream world where we think that everyone's going to sort of trust an agent to make the decisions on their behalf. I think the nuanced reality will probably be mixed, where there will be some element of that for maybe cheaper purchases,
repeat purchases,
cheaper, all that, where something like an Amazon Alexa, where it's like add that to the shopping list and that's that. Like a bit more smart than that, obviously.
Yeah.
That's great. I think websites will still be relevant for sure, but less important in this journey because there's this other factor to consider, and it's not just like your SEO visibility or your conversion rate optimization. It's how visible are you to these AI agents?
Yeah, and I suppose that's the first hurdle, right? Is making sure that you
Yeah.
pop up, both organically and then supporting that organic with if you are running any sort of paid elements off the back of it.
Yeah, and it could be hugely like liberating for smaller brands if they can get in there as well, because certainly as it is right now in Google, if you're competing in Google search and there's 2 other brands in there that have got huge budgets and you're a small brand, you're just not even going to get a look in. So that that tactic is locked out for you unless you're very clever with your targeting.
And whereas the race is open, the gates are open and the race has started. So.
Yeah. So if you're maybe a smaller brand with a bit less resource, this is a perfect opportunity to develop your AI visibility and open yourself up to these agentic commerce, and get recommended. Be one of those 3 or 4 brands that are mentioned in conversations as recommendations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But in terms of how important websites are, I can't foresee a world, and maybe this is just me being nostalgic about the internet, being a millennial, but I can't foresee a world where websites are completely obsolete, and maybe there'll be more of a brand building tool in themselves, right? Where something's been recommended, and you might go to their website and check it out independently. And that's the sort of thing that I might do, because I wouldn't want an AI agent to buy things for me. I might say, okay, there's good, and then I'll go to their websites and research them myself. Maybe I'm already a dinosaur in this world.
I don't think you are, Sam. I would agree with you. I think I've been in this space for a while where commerce and transactional capabilities have crossed over, and I think in this part of the world, we're based in London, obviously, and in the West, we haven't seen such an aggressive uptake yet for instantly transactional opportunities. I remember that there is an integration with Meta and Amazon, and I don't think we've seen that been ticked up as perhaps as aggressively as it could have been by advertisers and brands.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have live shopping. I was talking to someone the other day that if live shopping was such a thing, we'd see QVC as the biggest channel in on TV, and it's just not the case. And I'm not sure that consumers in our part of the world are quite ready to transact like that. And I agree with you. I like to go to a website and have my freedom of choice. And I think although agentic commerce presents an interesting technical capability, will customers actually buy that? We don't know yet. We don't know. I personally would probably use it from a novelty. I think from a weekly shop point of view, it's super helpful to help me populate a basket or keep a running tab open on ChatGPT to add things to my basket. But how easy that is and how reliable it is yet to be seen. And who knows, maybe we'll have to pay a service fee for the agent actually buying on our behalf.
I'd imagine
if
so.
If Sam wants to continue making money, then perhaps that's something I wouldn't indulge in if I'm already paying for a delivery fee because I do my shopping online, actually, my weekly shop. But all yet to be seen, Sam, all yet to be seen.
Super interesting.
So let's start to wrap things up. I want you to continue down this path, and let's talk about future. Because we've agreed that the future lens is incredibly exciting. I want to get some of Sam Cox's predictions for the next. Let's keep it short term because things are moving real quick. Let's say in the next 3 years, is conversational AI as an ad platform in the top 5 performance channels in your opinion?
Yes,
I would agree. I would agree.
Yes, and depending on the speed that accelerates and however it gets through its testing phase, I can't wait to see the first data come through. This is sad to even saying. I can't wait to get that spreadsheet.
I know you can't.
and compare it and see how it fits in with that mix and what's the actual behavior. And we said, is it incremental before seeing how that will play out will be truly interesting. But in answer to the question, yes, it will be in the top 5 for sure.
I agree with you.
Because all the other channels are stagnant, really. Cost per clicks are going up and results are flatlining. And as I say, like if you're a smaller brand, you get blocked by a few big players in the market and you're unable to compete.
Yeah.
So actually, the driver of usage of any AI ads will be or smaller brands or boutique agencies that will undercut, massive Goliaths probably.
Absolutely. I think all to be seen, and I would agree. I would be very shocked if the performance is incredibly powerful coming off the back of this new ad platform. And so with that, we've already talked a little bit on this topic, but does Google copy this aggressively? And if so, when? When are we going to see Gemini releasing or Google releasing some sort of equivalent ad platform?
Probably quite soon, I would imagine.
Can we get a date from you, sir?
Christmas maybe, I don't know. The prize is there to be seen, right? And we've discussed what this sort of platform can bring to users, and the advertisers, obviously it's in their interest to deliver that value as well and be the first one to get there, because marketing channels and spend is to an extent embedded into financial years, right? So it might be the case that as managers do their planning, which would be around Christmas time this year for financial year, the following year, that there'll be some sort of option on the table.
And so in your opinion, what do clients want from this new channel in a future world? And what do they want from an agency specifically?
Yeah, I think as we've said, it will probably this channel will be up there in some of the highest spending channels that you could have, maybe in 5 years or so. So how are agencies going to adapt to that? You would like to think that it's going to be picked up by some of the big agencies in terms of managing and optimizing campaigns of this nature. But really, like, what will be the secret to that? And my argument is that it will be data and structured data. And how do you get that into the recommendation engine and be discovered as one, but also to optimize the campaign? And that sort of it brings me on to another topic of, if you're going to lose those touch points and the optimizations through conversion APIs and pixels, you need that sort of source of truth to fill that gap. And where's that source of truth going to come from? You need to rely on the CRM as your source of truth, and then enrich that data source with various other destinations, of which or various other sources, of which OpenAI would be one. I think key challenges for agencies would definitely be moving away from just sort of creative optimization and producing high engaging content, because actually in an AI conversation there is no creative. It will be purely what AI knows about your brand and how it can recommend it to that particular context or situation. And the more data it has available to it, the more effectively it will be able to do that. It's kind of like SEO 20 years ago, right? Where whatever is on your page will get picked up by Google and recommended. It's a similar thing, but obviously much more sophisticated. So the way agencies will get ahead really is prioritizing that data strategy with clients, and navigating this world where data is a challenge, and getting to that source of truth. Because I think now a lot of clients and agencies are sort of realizing that they're maxing out on the traditional campaign setup. You'll run a PMAX campaign, you'll set some parameters. It's actually not that hard to do really anymore, because the algorithms do a lot of the heavy lifting. As long as you've got the right data feeds in there, that's easy enough to do. I think the real role of an agency will be to help clients understand attribution
Yeah.
of their spend, what's driving the incremental revenue, and squeezing every last drop out of their ad spend through things like CRO as well, for those users that are going to navigate onto the site. And how do you communicate that back to both? How do you communicate it to the ad platform, so OpenAI in this case, and how do you get that data from them into your systems in a meaningful way to create a cohesive story?
Yeah.
And I think there'll have to be a big shift where data teams within agencies will become the primary team. It was always used to be the case when I worked for other agencies where, the data team were there to support the people running the campaigns and the creatives. I think that'll flip for sure. Like the data team will be the primary drivers of value in a campaign, and everything else will be maybe secondary, and that may be controversial to say, but this is why I've noticed this trend over the past few years. Is why I've started my own agency in this area, because I recognize that this is where clients are going to find the value. And that's what we exist to provide.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then let's talk a little bit about the world that we play in at Portal, CPG brands and retailers. Do you see retailers getting into this space, building their own AI tooling and infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, you see that already with a lot of retailers, and having AI summaries on everything. And I'm always skeptical that they are actually AI as well, where it's just some chatbot that's
manually being.
Yeah, well, I don't know. So you see that capability, and for sure, I think it's fashionable, right, at the minute. It's why we're talking about it. It's the thing that everyone's talking about. So I think they'd be silly not to get involved with that, for sure.
Nice. And then finally do you think that this development in ad platforms, introduction of AI, large language opportunities, does that collapse the traditional marketing funnel as we know it?
To an extent, yes. I think in the digital funnel, yes. I mentioned before about how you might want to use paid social as like a billboard, where you almost give up on the attribution and use it as a brand awareness tool. That part of the funnel would probably remain and be the same. But in terms of the typical like digital funnel, where you go from awareness, consideration, purchase, you will get more and more high intent clicks that are singular on your website that have been that have come from AI, which are ready to buy. So that's done those first two phases for you, and that's a positive if you're a retailer, right? And you'll probably see website conversion rates go up as the share of AI traffic continues, and that's organic AI as well as paid.
Yes.
As well. It is already quite high intent. So, from a conversion rate optimization, we work with a lot of clients doing CRO projects. I mean, there'll always be things to consider, but in terms of how you design your user journey, right? So if you've got a landing page that you've designed for people coming from AI, that could look a lot different to something else, like where you've got a product list page and they go through to a PDP and then checkout, etc. You could just be like, right, okay, so here's a landing page designed to be received from AI.
Yeah.
And that's a different tactic entirely, and that's probably where we'll end up, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super fascinating. It will depend on how much is shared through the ad platform, though. Any context of what that context window was, of where that click came from.
Well, again, yeah, this is all about the data availability from, and we touched on it before. It's a huge risk. So, we can have this utopian vision of, we get all these high intent users coming to the website from AI, paid and organic, and that's brilliant. But how do you know where they've come from? And you're losing those other touch points from previous sessions, maybe, because they've done all of that work in one conversation on ChatGPT. It's a huge risk. Like, what data are you going to get out of that black hole? And if you can get it, is it trustworthy? Because we know from the attribution models of, say, Meta, for example, or indeed Google, they try and claim every interaction as they drove that conversion.
Yeah,
I would imagine OpenAI would
do the same.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure, but it might actually be true.
Yeah, well, exactly that. So there we have it. So I think in summary, it's obviously incredibly early days, but something big is happening. There is a big shift going on, and it's unignorable that our world is changing. Advertisers' opportunities are changing, and this isn't just another inventory. This is a whole new paid advertising channel, and as you rightly put it, we're excited to see the first data and see how this is performing. And we're already starting to have conversations with some of our CPG clients about how they can start to unlock this. It's just in the US, but I imagine at the pace that AI is moving, we're going to start to see that opportunity make its way into Europe and the rest of the world very, very soon. And especially for CPGs, this is more than just about ads. It's about how do you control your spend, make sure that you're doing it effectively, and really understand what happens after the click. As you said, even the early work you're doing in organic, in measuring the organic traffic coming from ChatGPT and other large language platforms is showing that it's got high intent, which is truly, truly exciting. And it paves the way for these AI platforms to become the gateway to commerce. And the real competitive advantage won't just be buying the ads anymore. It will be how do you show up more effectively and what happens after that. So, Sam, thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your deep knowledge of Google, as you are. I've always said to me, you are a self-professed Google nerd.
Pays my bills, doesn't it? So.
Fortunately for us, you are our in-house Google expert. And to anyone else out there listening, if you want help with your CRO optimization, highly recommend getting in touch with Sam. And thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode of No Shelf Control. Thanks.